Hi, everybody! Woohoo! Woohoo! It's Friday afternoon, and welcome to Bold Badass Business Owners. I'm Dr. Barnsley Brown, your badass host, and today I am thrilled to have in the studio the fantastic, the funtastic Frank Agin. I hope I pronounced that right.
It's Agin, but that's okay. You got Frank right.
All right,
That's
Agin. I got Frank right. This is good. We're doing well.
yeah. The glass is half full.
The glass is half full, right? It's not cracked. It's not on the floor in a million pieces.
Yeah.
So, Frank, I'm thrilled to have you here. And you all, I want you to let you know that Frank, we are calling him a human Velcro expert because Frank is the person who brings people together. He connects them. He connects people to the resources they need, to the people they need, to the information they need. And a part of the philosophy that Frank has that I really appreciate is that he's a giver. He, like me, really believes in giving. And we know, Frank, that when you give, oh my God, you're going to always be prospered, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't go poor giving yourself away. That's what I say.
I love that. You can't
Yeah.
go poor. Okay, now that has to go over here. You can't go poor giving yourself away. We're not saying prostituting yourself, y'all. Go poor. We're saying giving yourself away. There's a difference there.
Yep.
Giving your expertise, giving what you know. I'm putting that over here. Um, I like to pop stuff up in the chat, Frank, for everybody. So you can't go poor giving yourself away. I didn't get the away in there. So Frank, you all, just so you know, is the creator of the Networking RX podcast. He is also the author of numerous books, and he is also the creator of the Networking Hub. And that is an awesome business networking group that you can attend. So, Frank, tell us just for a second about the Networking Hub and how that got started and how people could come and participate.
Yeah. I guess let me back up a little bit. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I came here to go to law school years ago. I have a law degree. I have an MBA. I started my career in public accounting with a great job, great pay, great everything. But I'm entrepreneurial, and I didn't want to do taxes for the rest of my life. So I went into private
Yeah.
practice, and a funny thing happened in private practice. I had no idea how to get clients. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I struggled like many bold ass business people getting a start. Somebody suggested I go to a tips club or a leads group.
Mm-hmm.
And I was invited in February of 1995 to an organization that was based out of Pittsburgh. It made total sense to me that I could lift my whole world up just helping other people.
Yeah.
And I really doubled down on that and became its first franchisee. And then in the early 2000s, had an opportunity to buy it and rebranded it as AM Spirit Business Connections. So for the better part of the last 20, 25 years, more than that, almost 30 years, in one form or another, I have been involved in networking. Well, when when the pandemic came down, when the lockdown came down, I was a little panicked. What am I going to do? Because much of what I was doing was face to face, and we all had this Zoom thing, and I was just trying to explore different ways of using it. Knew a number of people out there that were very well connected. They were all givers, and I just invited them into a call June of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a great time. And we said, "Do you want to keep doing this?" And so the second Wednesday of every month,
Mm-hmm.
we 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I actually get it started at 6:30. People can come in, but you know, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, podcasters. You've been on wonderful entrepreneurs. They come on, and it's really kind of a shout out to Bob Berg, but a really a go giver type vibe where people are coming in and they're not only willing to help other people, but they're trying to be, well, not trying to be, they are vulnerable, asking for help. I'm trying to write a book. What do this is where I'm stuck. And, everybody in a room has problems, and everybody else in the room has solved those problems. So, let's do this. And so that's what's happened. And it's almost been 3 years now. Hundreds of people have come through. So it's neat.
I love that, Frank, and it's such a great example of what happened with the pandemic, because so many people were bemoaning what's happening, but you just had this idea, I am surrounded by people who are amazing. I want to give, I want to connect people, I want to be the human Velcro expert. And
Yeah,
you brought everybody into the Zoom room. And then, I know because I've been to Networking Hub and really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it to everybody who's watching. And it's free. I mean, good God, y'all.
yeah.
I mean, right. You could, and I definitely had great business connections come out of it. So I know that that's one of the things that happened with the pandemic is that we realized, we've got to create our networks, and our networks are not just our local networking. We've got to
Yeah.
reach beyond and bring in others.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, I tell people connecting with other people is a 100% your obligation. You can't sit at
Mm,
home and sit there and mope and think somebody's going to come out and, lift you up. Um, you know, people people are empathetic. They're okay with feeling sorry for somebody or understanding where somebody's at. But at the end of the day, Barnsley, they want to hang with people who are energetic, who are ready to go. And that's who we need to be. That's how we need to show up in the world. It's okay to have bad days. I have bad days. We all have bad days, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but you need to try and push those things aside and get yourself in a good mood and connect with people, whether it's in
And
person or online.
I believe it too, Frank. And even, the mark of a real professional is that no matter how you feel, no matter if your printer and your computer just exploded or whatever, you realize I go on no matter what. And you show up, and maybe you don't feel good when you show up, but as soon as you get engaged from your passionate, purposeful mission in your business, then your spirit lifts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're around those people who are uplifting people as you are, somebody who likes to lift other people up, and you have that, I kind of see you as salt of the earth. You have that salt of the earth quality, Frank.
Well,
You
thank
know,
you.
yeah, it is a compliment, just a good, solid person who wants to share resources with others, and who is humble. And I that's something I've definitely have noted. I can't talk today. I've noticed this about you. It's something I appreciate about you is that your leadership style is very humble. It's just down to earth. And that's how I am too. I can be really ridiculous and silly, but it's just down to earth. And we want everyone to get engaged. And that's something I noticed at Networking Hub too, is that you had everybody engaged. So tell us just for a minute, today we're talking about how to infect people with the belief they can win. Confessions of a Networking Pro. And so we get to have true confessions here. Frank said he is like a recovering Catholic. So this is your chance, Frank. Um, so tell us what are several of the things that you've learned that are just really instrumental in being a leader who infects in a good way, not the COVID way, in a good way, infects someone with the idea that they really can win in life and in business.
Well, I think it's as simple as looking around and seeing that there are people who are successful. It's not luck. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe there's a small degree of that. If you live next door to somebody who happens to give you an internship that just kind of launches things,
Yeah.
but even still, you've kind of put yourself in the right place at the right time to make those things happen. So I think it's as simple as kind of just seeing who's out there, um, and realizing that there's really nothing special about them. You just need to go ahead and do it. But then you need to take action. And a lot of times when I see people in networking, what they're out there doing is um, they're trying to find the winning lottery ticket as a metaphor. They're just trying to
Mm,
find that thing that solves all their problems,
mm,
and they get frustrated because they don't find it. And what I tell people is, don't try and solve the big problems. Try and solve a lot of little problems. So I'll use baseball as a metaphor. Stop trying to hit a home run. Just
yeah.
get on base. I need some information to do a live program on StreamYard. Can you help me do that? Yeah, I certainly can. You know,
Or
can
even
you
back
help?
it up further. Like, what's a program I can use so I can broadcast to places simultaneously? Like, just even picking up the bat,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
and somebody says, "Oh, you need StreamYard. Here's a coupon code."
Yeah. Right. It can be that simple. And asking for those sorts of things, people tend to dismiss those as benefits that a network can. They just think about sales. That's all they think about. And it's like there's so many things that we can draw from our network, that can help us become successful. Just even going out and talking to somebody who is successful and saying, I know you're busy. Do you have 10 minutes? I could just pick your brain and just see, what you have done. People love to talk, and I'm not saying flip the script on them and pitch them for a job or business or something like it. Be genuine, Well, what would you advise me to do? Well, I'd advise you to go to this networking event, or I would advise you to get involved with this charity because there's a lot of people who are involved with that are kind of your tribe or your community. Those things are huge.
They are huge. And you know what I love is that when you ask somebody for advice, basically what you're saying to them is, I really respect you.
Yeah.
You are successful. And so not only, a lot of times we think, well, I'm taking from them. No, you're not taking it all. You're actually giving them the gift of realizing they have something to give, that
Yeah.
they
Validation.
are
Yeah.
respected. It's
Yeah.
validation. Yeah,
Yeah.
then you think, wow, they think I've won, they think I'm a winner. So heck yeah, I'm going to help that person. And I've heard it said, and probably you have too, Frank. And actually, I'm thinking about a couple of situations in graduate school that years ago that I completely turned around. And you know how I turned them around, Frank? I asked the person for help.
Yeah.
One person who had been preventing me, because I was a strong woman, that might surprise you, Frank. One person who had been preventing me from teaching particular courses and kept just my name would be on the list. I know it was because I was told it was by various
Right.
professors, and it would disappear, right? So I went to her office and I asked her for a recommendation.
Yeah.
And I never used the recommendation. Never used it, but I asked for it. And do you know, from then on, my name amazingly and miraculously stayed on that list to
Yeah.
teach the best courses. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of validity to that. There's a book out there by Amy Cuddy. She's a professor at Harvard. It's called Presence, and in there she has a whole chapter where she talks about imposter syndrome. And I thought the book was really interesting, or this, well, the whole book is interesting, but certainly this chapter, because she confesses that she has imposter syndrome. She walks around on Harvard's campus, and she's like, "Man, I don't feel like
Yeah.
I belong." And 70% of the people there feel that way. 70% of the population feels that way. And so you have a 70% chance of going to somebody and giving them that validation and raising up their spirit because they might be thinking in that moment, yeah, I don't know that I really belong. Maybe I haven't arrived. You know what? Just asking for that help from them, is a clear indication, you've arrived. You may not have arrived relative to other people, but to me, you've arrived. So I just think that's a powerful thing to ask for help.
I love that. And I love what you said. I've been putting stuff up in the I like to put the nuggets and gems up here. And I put up, this question asking someone, what would you advise me to do? Right. In a
Yeah.
particular situation, obviously you all, make it fit whatever situation you're in business. But that is such a powerful question, because just the choice of the word advise is
Yeah.
powerful, because advise sets that person you're speaking to up as a trusted advisor,
Yeah.
and it's an expert position, You're
Yeah.
not saying, well, what do you think I should do? Which is like what most people do. What Bubba in the South would say is, what do you think I should do? Instead, you're saying, what would you advise me to do? Which
Yeah.
gives them so much credibility. You're just bestowing that on them with your words.
And
And
well,
the beauty,
and
yeah.
yeah, well, not to interrupt you, but people will ask me and I'll give them advice and they'll say, well, I've already done that. And
Mm,
it kind of shoots me down a little bit, and that's fine. But I don't think that's the best follow-up question. I think the better follow-up question is, oh, that's interesting you say that. I've tried that. Maybe there's something about what I'm doing and what you're suggesting I'm not getting.
there you
Because
go.
when they say, well, I've already tried that. Have you really? Do you know exactly what I
Mhm.
mean when I'm saying this?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There's a guy I know in business, financial advisor, just struggling. So I met with him, just gave him some time, and just talked through what he was doing. And I said, what are some of the things you're doing to market your practice? He said, well, I've got a restaurant that's allowed me to put a fishbowl out, and people can put cards in for a free pizza. That's
To
a
put a
great
what
idea.
out? To
A
put a what out?
fishbowl.
Fishbowl. Oh, okay. Because it just sort of
Yeah.
cut out. A fishbowl. Okay, great.
Yeah, fishbowl. People could put their card in. If their card's
Yeah.
pulled, they win a pizza, right? And it's just a sign on there, sponsored by so and so financial advisor. I said, that's a great idea. How does what do you do? He says, well, it really hasn't worked. I said, well, okay, what do you mean it hasn't worked? Well, I pull a name out and they're the winner. I give them a pizza and then I ask if they want to meet with me, and nobody wants to meet with me. I'm like, okay, what do you do with the other 99 cards you get? Oh, I throw those away. I'm like,
Oh.
no, and I'm not laughing at him, because we all do stupid things like that. But I
Yeah.
said, no, the 99 cards, you give the pizza away and you leave those people alone. That's part of winning. You leave them alone. It's the other 99 that you've got their cards. And so you reach out to them.
Yes, and the whole reason you're doing that is so you can get their email address and continue to build the relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
I just had a situation with one of my coaching clients this morning where she's going to a great big festival where she's paid to be a VIP sponsor at one of the gates. And this is where I love being a coach, because she said, I'm going in, I've got my pens ready and my cards ready. And I said, okay, that's great. And I want you to get a fishbowl. That's what I said, Frank. This is this morning. Or a big glass vase. That's fine too. And I want you to give away, she's an accountant, I want you to give away tax preparation, 1040 tax prep, valued at 200, 300, whatever it is. I want you to have a drawing. And so as they come in, those of them, the people who are interested in that, are going to stick their little slip of paper in there, and you're going to say that you're going to offer them VIP offers as well when they put their email. And then you're going to have all of those people, and you will have someone who will become most likely 95% of the time will become your client because they win it. But all these other people you're going to be planting seeds with, and then you can cultivate the relationship.
Yeah. But back to the point I was making is that we all do stupid little things. We all, here's another example. A couple of years ago, I was talking to somebody about my podcast, a friend of mine, and he's over, Andrew Stotts. Shout out to Andrew. He's over in Thailand, and we talk from a couple times a year. And he said, I love listening to podcasts. Great. And I have yours on my phone. Great. I never listened to yours, Frank. Why not? And he said, I got to be honest, how you title them is not compelling. So I was titling things like, Dr. Barnsley Brown. That's, and the second he told me, I'm like, oh my God, you are so right. I can't believe I've been so dumb, and then I went back and I started.
You didn't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, but those are the little things that our network can help us with. And sometimes we're just a smidge away, a little information away from, being that badass business person.
Exactly. And, and I think that just being, as you pointed out earlier, being willing to listen. So instead of, when somebody gives you some coaching or some advisement, right, instead of saying, well, I already tried that, which basically just says, I'm not listening. I just blew off whatever you said before, saying something like, I tried that, and here's how I did it. What would you add to it? Because it didn't really work that great.
Yeah.
And just delving, having the humility, and this comes from somebody who, I was in a know-it-all profession in academia. I mean, that's the biggest know-it-all profession.
Yeah. You can't admit, that I don't know.
You can't admit you don't know.
Yeah.
You just can't, right? And so coming out of that, it's so much more fun to be coachable and teachable. And it's so much more human to just be able to admit, I never really thought about that. And I love that idea. And it makes the other person feel wonderful. So what I'm gathering is that you want for us to infect other people with the idea that they can win. We, of course, want to ask them for advisement, ask them for coaching, ask them for ideas, ask for help.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable, not be afraid to ask for help, and not be afraid to just say those times when we've had a particularly hard week, you know. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Frank, but I've had a few enrollment conversations recently that I just, you know, when I finished, I felt like, you know, what have I just done? I've just gone down the ski slope on my hind end, you know,
Yeah.
not on
Yeah.
the skis. And so we have these moments where if we just try to address this alone, as many solopreneurs and business owners are typically doing, it's not fun, it's painful, and we may get stuck for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to this person who you had write a recommendation for you. I mean,
Oh yeah.
let's think about the psychology of that. That person
Hmm.
writes a recommendation for you. She needs you to win. She's invested in you, right? You know, and
Right,
that's what, you
because
know,
her reputation's on the line, right?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So she's
Yeah.
gonna, it's, these are simple things. They're simple things, but I think what we try to do, and I've been guilty of this. I know I've been guilty of this. Is we want to do it on our own.
Yeah.
We don't want to bother somebody. We don't want to, um, we don't want to be rejected, and people won't reject us. We don't want somebody to say later, "Well, I gave them this opportunity," um, and it's nothing could be further from the truth.
Well, for most people, I would say. I mean, I think there is the occasional uh, uh, donkey.
Yeah, yeah,
There is the occasional donkey. There are a few people that you definitely, you know, would want to be tread carefully around. They're usually on a big ego trip. But in business, especially being a leader, I think there's a responsibility to to be to be real, you know. Like I remember,
yeah,
okay, Frank, I'll give you another example, and I know you have stories like this, but it's a short one. I remember this place that had hired me over and over, and I would go and present for their groups, various different groups. And I ended up getting, and I've never done this in 22 and a half years, but I got the time wrong, Frank.
oh boy, yeah,
Oh yeah, I got the time wrong. For some time I had it in my head. I was like, all right, this was at, but here's what had happened. Originally, the person who approached me had said a particular time and then he changed it. Well, I still had the original time in my head. And so it really wasn't all my fault. But what did I do when I got there? People who knew me said, "We are waiting for you." They'd been texting me, "We're waiting for you." And I said, "Well, I'm coming in. I'll be there shortly. Why are you all so early?" And they're like, "We're not early." So I went in and it was you'll love this. It was a presentation on leadership. And I said, something that a leader does not throw other people on the bus. And look, don't get mad at Doug, the director of this place. He didn't do this. This is my responsibility. So
yeah,
don't y'all go and complain to him. I I got this wrong. I haven't done it in over 15 years of business. At that time, that was what it is, but I got it wrong, and I apologize. Your time matters. So what I'm going to do to make it up to you is this. Will that work? And I said, don't. And by the way, first thing we need to learn today is when you're a leader, don't throw other people under the bus. Because if you're the leader of a group and something's going amiss, guess who's responsible?
yeah. Like,
Look in the mirror.
yeah, like I
Yep.
said, you have 100% responsibility for you. Um, so
But if you're leading a group
yeah,
and something's wrong in that group, hmm, guess who's got to make that right? We do, as the
yeah.
leaders. You know? So what are some of the other tools, Frank, that you use as the leader of Networking Hub and in your podcast, for example, to really infect people in that good way with that they are already winners, even.
Well, I mean, part of what I do is I introduce people, and again, that's another form of validation. Because if you don't believe in somebody, you're not going to introduce them to somebody else, right? Um, and so I do a lot of introducing people. You know, you two ought to meet, and I don't exactly know why. Well, you do it. We need to bring up Sajad. He connected us. Sajad
Hmm.
does it. And there's really not. there's really not a well-defined end game in my mind when I connect people. Sometimes there is, but 90% of the time, it's just, you know what, you're two great people. I just introduced a couple people this morning. One woman's in Norway, the other woman's in Estonia. You're great
Mm.
people. You're in that side of the world. Um, you're both kind of marketing, kind of networking type people. You ought to meet. I don't know where it's going to go, but you don't know, and you just have to kind of do those things, and that certainly energizes people. That lets people know. Well, it certainly gives people hope, right? When you have that, I've got that additional connection, and maybe, just maybe, this is the one.
So
Um,
I want to add something to that what you're just saying, and I put that up in the validate other people by asking them for help and introducing them to other professionals. And I would also say be a sales force for other people.
yeah,
And what I mean by that, everybody, is just when you have tried, like I've been to Frank's networking hub, I enjoyed it. So why would I be quiet about it? Anytime I have the opportunity to talk about it, which I have been, Frank, by the way, I'm sending you people, good people, because why would I not?
right.
And so this is where people who are more introverted, for instance, and by the way, I can be very introverted. No, introverted.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
I can be very introverted, you all. I just have to tell you, everybody thinks she's such an extrovert. No, I like my quiet time too, and I
Yeah,
like to have no noise whatsoever, and I get refreshed by that and rejuvenated by that. But be a sales force whenever you are in a room networking and somebody asks for testimonials. I want you to think, because surely you can give a testimonial for somebody in that
yeah,
room.
yes,
Don't be that person who sits back and is like, well, I don't want to look dumb, or, be a giver. How many times, Frank, I tell you, I could rattle off all the people I do business with, and I love to do that and talk about what's special about them. And then sometimes I sit back and I think, well, where are they doing that for me?
yeah,
Once in a while, it's like, hmm. And so just had the opportunity. There was like a perfect opening for that. What do you think about that, Frank? Why is it that some people will actually hold back when they have the opportunity to really build somebody up in front of them, to really build that person up? Why do some people hold back?
well, we all come to the world from sort of a different place, a different level of security, if you will. That's the first thing. I know people who they would love it if you went on their LinkedIn and wrote a comment, but they would never do it. Um,
Mm,
but I think a lot of times the reason is that people aren't open-minded about helping other people. And this was a quote that was on my podcast years ago. I forget the person who said it. I could look it up. Um, but it stuck with me. He said the reason that people don't get everything they want in life is because they're too busy trying to get everything they want in life. And it's like, oh, that is so true.
mm,
They're so fixated. So this person is, they hear a conversation going on, and rather than, this is how I can turn this and really validate and elevate Barnsley, I'm looking for my sunshine. Um, you know, what's the saying? Somebody else's beauty doesn't diminish yours. But I just think people,
mm.
they're not selfish necessarily. Selfish would be, hey, I see an opportunity here. I know this would help her. I'm not going to do it. That's selfish. Um,
Yeah,
Ignorant, I don't mean stupidity, but just kind of ignorant of the opportunity. That's really where I think the breakdown is a lot of times. And it really starts with being open to trying to find those opportunities and start every day just, okay, who am I going to serve today? Who can I introduce? And I write notes as meet people, and look, this person needs to meet this person needs to meet this person. And I don't always necessarily come up with things. Um, but in time, it's like, okay, these are great introductions to have. And
I
you have
love
to
that.
set about doing it.
And you're listening for those.
Yeah.
You're listening for those introductions rather than for what you want. I love that quote. I stick it up here. The reason why people don't get everything they want in life is because they're really focused on what they want in life, right? It's like
Yeah.
that's their primary thing. And so they really can't hear the other thing, which may all the other things that could be going on. Somebody may need help. There may be an opening to actually serve them through our work, that we're
Yeah.
not able to see because we're fixated on something else. This is really intriguing because I'm really focused on, and I do teach this, and you've heard me talk about this, having an intention when you do any activity. Like, have a serious intention when you go into a networking group. Like, I don't want to meet everybody. I just want to make a
Yeah.
deep connection with a couple of people. And then I
Yep.
want to carry it outside of there and build it from there. But I don't want to meet everyone.
Yeah.
And I always preach to have an intention, but perhaps at some point that intention could also prevent you from seeing, or me from seeing, another opportunity that's there. So what do you think is kind of the right balance of having an intention when you go to network, and then having part of you that's just really kind of open for anything that might transpire?
Yeah. And I alluded to it earlier. You're 100% responsible for yourself, and
Yeah.
you're the only thing you can control. So when you go into a setting, you can control doing things for other people. You can't control whether or not somebody's going to do something for you. So there are people who are like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything till I get something. Well, that doesn't work. Just
Mm.
put yourself out there, and give,
Yeah.
um, and just trust karma. Trust that it's going to come back to you. It will. I can't tell how. I can't tell you how or when or where, but it will come back to you. It might be somebody who oversees what's happening and saying, you know what,
Yes.
I like how you gave time to that person. That was really nice of you. You didn't have to do that, and you did that, and it warms their heart. And it might not be immediate, but it might be somewhere down the line where people are like, yeah, he's a good person, she's a good person. um, but yeah, we can't control what other people do. You can only control what you're about.
And we can't control what they think either,
No.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes people can really have a skewed vision of somebody. I mean, I definitely have made flash judgments of people that I later regretted in networking, for instance, where I made a judgment about who somebody was. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on maybe something they said, or what they were wearing, or where they're from even. you
Yeah.
know we're all guilty, I think, of that. I believe that it's 7 seconds we have to make an impression, and so often we make an impression that is not right, that
Yeah.
really isn't who that person is. And I've had moments in my life where I got to really take myself on about a judgment I made about somebody, and then that person ended up being a huge ally, and I
Yeah.
really loved them as a person. I just really appreciated them, but we had to get through some kind of uh, it's almost like the past can influence us so deeply, and we're not even aware of it. So for example, Frank, maybe you meet somebody who reminds you of your second grade teacher who was mean to you and rapped on your knuckles and told you
Yeah.
you were stupid, and you're not aware that that person reminds you of her, and you meet them in business and suddenly you're like, oh, I don't like that person.
Right.
And later you realize, oh my goodness, I really do like this person. What was I thinking? And
You know who
maybe
the Yeah,
we'll put it.
the perfect example for that is Sajad. For me,
Yeah,
at least, when
right.
you know, um, he's an acquired taste. Some
He
people
is.
really like him. You really like him. I
I
really
do.
like him. I know people who are put off by him. But the first
Yeah.
time I met him, it was like, I don't know how to take this guy. Is he picking a fight, or is he playing around? And in time, I realized that he was playing around, and he has, he's I'm trying to think of the candy. Got the sour exterior and the sweet
Sweet and
interior.
sour.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Oh,
that's
right. Yes.
he's just he's a good person, and he likes to play the bad boy. He likes it, but
Yeah.
he is really a good person. Um, and maybe he's listening, maybe not. Who knows?
Oh, we'll
But I
have to
think,
send this to Sajad.
yeah. But that's a perfect example of a
Yes.
situation. But then there are other. It goes the other way too. where you'll run into
Yes.
somebody and say, "Oh my gosh, this is a game changer for me to know this person," and real quickly you realize they're an idiot,
Mhm.
and they're self-centered and they're
Yeah.
putting on airs. So the universe balances out.
It does, and I am a firm believer to go where the energy is. So actually, I will be in a room, including Zoom rooms, and I'll tell where the energy is. Right, I can just feel where it's we're matter, we're energy. I mean that's physics,
Yeah,
and I'll just feel where the energy is. And some people would call that your vibe or whatever. I guess that's what the hippies called it, but it really is like a vibration that's there. And if somebody, it's not just the personality of the person, it's something of their essence that's coming through in the way they hold themselves and the language they use and the way that they uh, are showing up or not, which comes
right.
back to the book Presence.
Yeah,
The book Presence. I mean, I know you and I were talking about this book, or I haven't read it, but we were talking about the fact that the presence, that actually being there and showing up and giving our full attention to the person in front of us is a huge gift that our society has largely lost.
yeah,
We don't know how to do it much anymore because there's so much input from everywhere.
yeah. No, it's true. It's true. It's in many ways it's easy. It's easy to know the game plan because I always tell people, um, become the person you want to network with. I mean, who do you want to
Mm,
be? Who do you want to be with out there? And it's easy to formulate that in your mind, but it's difficult to do it day to day. Because
I
we
love
do
that.
run into problems. We have stressful days. You know, things break. Things are going along and your copier breaks, and that's $1,000 that
Mm.
you weren't anticipating. Well, that's gonna
Plus a bunch of time, right, to set it
yeah,
up.
yeah, that's gonna hit you. And it's gonna set you back, and you know nobody is so in control of themselves, and so that hits you, and then you might not be present in a call with somebody. I've had that situation. I've had to call people
Mm.
back and say, "Can we redo that?" It's just I
Yeah,
don't really feel like I was there. I want to be there. I really
yeah,
want to understand about what you're about, and I think that's for me. It's worked out well because it's like, wow, the person really cares. Yeah,
yeah,
we
and
didn't
they
have a good.
realized something was missing, right?
Yeah.
Like, they had enough self-awareness to realize they were preoccupied with something else?
Well, and to
Um,
your point earlier, you own it then. I was off my game,
exactly.
Wasn't you. You didn't offend me. I really had a bad day. I know we had a call scheduled. Figured I could do it. I didn't want to reschedule. Hey, let's redo it. And the second calls are always better, right? They're just,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like customer service when it's really, really good when you've had somebody who's unhappy with something, but if you're really present with them, if you're really present and you say, I really am, I apologize for this. This should never have happened.
right.
Or I'm sorry that you have this feeling that really wasn't my intention, but I understand what you're saying and how you feel that way, and how can I make it right for you? And if we're really present for people, in the majority of cases, once we come to someone with that kind of attention, they will actually become even more devoted to us as a client than they were before there
Yeah.
was the issue. But it's when we blow off people and their needs that problems start. I read something, Frank. I thought this was interesting, and it was that in our lives, if we just, the important key players in our life, if we just give them 10 minutes of undivided attention every day,
Yeah.
that's all it takes to keep a relationship strong.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
you're
think
absolutely right.
about that.
Yeah.
Everybody, I want you to think for a second. And my damn phone keeps ringing. I can't stand that. That's my landline. Um, Distractions, right? So everybody watching this, I want you to think for a second about that. Think about that. How are you distracted from other people? How are you showing up? Maybe you're texting while you're talking to your client or your best friend or your spouse or even your dog. You know, are
Right.
you fully there? And are you giving them your undivided attention? And with that, your undivided attention, sure, it's 10 minutes, but if you don't give them your undivided attention, basically you might be there an hour and nothing gets accomplished. But if you
Yeah.
just give somebody that gift of your presence, it doesn't even have to be that you say anything. You can just ask a question or just sit in silence. It's amazing what can happen. I've noticed this a lot with my daughter, who's a teenager, and so much of it is just coming in and asking a funny question and
Yeah.
then listening, just shutting up,
Yeah.
you know?
Kids are a
So
great.
Frank, if you had, if,
Okay.
oh
Go.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just
Nope,
saying
you go, you go.
kids are a great practicing ground for developing
Yeah,
relationships. I mean, they're tough in the teen years. Um, they do come back and love you. And I told my wife all along, I said, when we are stressed as humans, we default to what we know, and what we know is what we've seen. And so we set the example for our kids, and they'll default to that in
yeah,
time. So
very true. And it's what we say, it's what they see us doing, it's what we model for
yeah,
good or for worse or both. It really is a
yep,
both.
yep.
So thinking about this, and I really appreciate you coming on a Friday afternoon. Everybody who's watching, look, I'm going to ask you all to comment. And thank you, Lariah, for commenting earlier. I know people are watching because we have usually in a couple of days, there are going to be over 100 views, but you all don't be internet voyeurs. Be a bold, badass business owner. And that means you speak up and you comment. Oh, I really love that. That's a great idea. Become the person you want to network. I love that. Um, or offer an idea, a question that you ask people to get advice or counsel. Just comment, y'all. All right, and like it and share it, because all of my amazing badass business owners coming to speak to you badass business owners are giving their time because they want to serve. They want to uplift you. So also, Frank, right now you're infecting the people watching this with the belief that they can win. And that's what this show is about. That whether or not you feel like a badass in business right now, you are, because you wouldn't be watching this if you weren't. I want you to really get that, everybody. You would not be watching this if you weren't already a badass in business. So, Frank, I want to ask you, just as we're going to close, and I know you have something special to offer people too. Just something, a little gift, and that may be the invitation to Networking Hub too. But I want to ask you, if you had 3 things that you could impart to everyone watching now or later about infusing people with that belief that they are winners, what would those 3 things be?
Yeah, that's
I know it's a hard question.
well, I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's like I used to ask on my podcast, "What's your favorite book?" And people who stumbled on it, I knew they read a lot, and people who, if you've read 2 books, it's one or the other, right? It's pretty simple. But
Yeah.
if you have a lot of answers to things, that's really kind of a deep sort of a question. But these are business owners on here. These are business people that follow you, that are your tribe. Um, it's not easy to be in business.
Mhm.
95% of the working world out there are not in business. They're not. And so the fact that you are still in business, and I think this is probably certainly the big one. The fact that you're still in business, um, is, is testament to the fact that you're a special person, because it's not easy. I've had bad days. You know, I've had, I can remember a few years ago, closing my books, and you're a big fan of knowing exactly what you make. I knew exactly what I made in a month. It was like $2 or $200.11, right?
Mm.
It was just a bad month. And I remember sitting at a soccer game it was a professional soccer game with my wife, and looking down and seeing the security guard who's sitting in a chair looking up at the crowd, right? And thinking to myself, this guy right here sitting in this chair, and I'm not demeaning what he's doing, but he's making more money right now than
Then
I
I
made all of last month. And it
mm,
was just like, oh, that hurt. But you know what? I got up the next day, dusted off, and went back at it. And I'll have days like that. Things happen in business.
yeah.
But I think that's the big thing for people, is just really sort of, you know, take stock in. It's so easy to look around and find somebody who's who's making more or has more or says they
Mhm.
are. There's a lot of BS out there.
Yes, there is.
And it's just like, don't worry about them. Worry about you. Okay, made $200 one month. You know what? Next month I'm gonna make 2,000. Right? I'm just gonna keep building up from there. And whoever you are, and just focus on you. Just focus on you. That's who you need to compete with,
Mm,
and have little metrics where you can kind of measure yourself, both the results, how much you make, and then the activity. Um,
exactly.
you know, I, I had 10 calls last month. This month I'm going for 15, you
Mhm.
know, something you can control. So
Right, because we can't control how many people, for example, enroll with us, but the
right.
number we can control is how many networking events we go to, how many follow-up conversations we have with people, how many enrollment conversations we have, how many broadcasts we do, how many
Yeah.
email newsletters we send out with valuable information. These are the things we can control. I love that message, Frank, because, we can't predict the results. But we know that when we are in action and we're coming from a place of service, we know that eventually, whatever slow time there might be in our business is going to turn around. It is
Yeah.
going to turn around. There's no way it can't. So that point is very well taken. I really like that. And so, what would be one or two other things you would impart? So, I like that of not competing with others, compete with yourself and measure with metrics that make sense to you,
Yeah.
with
Well, I
metrics
think
that make sense.
yeah, back to the whole theme of you can only control yourself.
Yeah.
Um, it, it really, and this is a question I get a lot, Barnsley. What's one thing I can do to
Mhm.
ramp up my networking? To kind of feel like I'm part of something. Find something you're passionate about and volunteer. Whatever it is, I don't know. It might be an animal charity. It might be literacy. It might be youth sports. I don't know. I don't know what people's passions are. But what I tell people is when you get up out of your chair and go to serve that community, you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with other people who have the same passion. You're rubbing elbows with people that you never would have met. And they don't really have to know a whole lot about you. You don't have to go in there and really pitch yourself because they'll figure it out. They can get on LinkedIn. They'll start asking questions. They'll know. Um, and even the people who aren't involved in that particular charity, they will they'll look on and say, well, I'm not really into literacy. It's not my passion. But I'm really impressed with what Barnsley's done. I'm really impressed. She's got to be a good person because she's knee deep in that, and she's on the board, and she's got to be a special person. So
Yeah.
that's we create our own moments, and that's
Mhm.
when we talk about winning. Everybody's waiting for somebody to give them a trophy. It's like, no, you go make your own damn trophy, right? However that you define that.
I love that. I'm writing that in here too for someone else else to give you a trophy, to give you validation, because we talked a lot about
Yeah,
validation here. And in business, it is hard to come by. It can be
yeah,
hard to come by.
yeah,
You get those great reviews sometimes on Google My Business or Facebook, or, you get people sending you these wonderful thank you notes. By the way, everybody, I highly recommend you start a file and you put all that stuff in there. So on the days when you have a shitty day, you open up the file and you read it, and there's no way you can stay depressed because
yeah,
somebody is telling you, thank you so much for this that you did for me, or thank you so much for your donation to this, or thank you for teaching me the blah, 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 whatever. So stop waiting for someone else to give you a trophy. Stop waiting for valid from others, and go out and find your own trophy. That's what you said, right, Frank?
yep.
I got
Go
something
make it.
popping up here. Oh, wait a second. Go make your own trophy. You said make your own damn trophy.
There you go. Yeah,
You
get the
cursed,
damn in there.
God. You
Yeah.
cursed. I can't believe it. No. All right. So you all, Frank's wisdom over here in the chat. Number one, compete with yourself, not others. Have metrics that make sense to you. Certainly, income should be a metric, but consider, say, where you were last month versus where you are this month.
Yeah.
Find some things you are passionate about and volunteer. Give your time. People will know you for your values and for what you give to others and what you care about, how caring and kind you are. Stop. I added that. I added that, Frank, the
That's
kind
okay.
part. Super, super important. And number 3, stop waiting for someone else to give you a trophy. Go make your own daggone trophy, right? And in doing that, you're teaching and modeling to others that they can do the same. Right? You're not waiting
Yep.
for permission from someone else. But when you go for it, someone else sees that and they think, well, gee whiz, Frank did this. You mean he went from 200 that month up to, 18,000 the next, whatever. They then say, well, if Frank could do that, I could do that too. So be aware that wherever you are, someone's watching you.
Yeah, it's true.
Someone's watching you and they're making decisions about their own lives based on you. So, Frank, a lot of someones are going to be watching this, I hope, and are going to really receive this message of staying teachable and coachable and approachable so that you can really be that person someone trusts, and then whatever feedback you need to give someone or share with someone, they're open to it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They know it comes from a place of not wanting to tear them down, but a place of really wanting to support.
Yeah.
And to see them have, everything that they want. It was Zig Ziglar, right, who said, when you help others get everything they want, you will get what you want.
Yeah,
I
I
think that
think
was,
I think
yeah,
the actual, if you can get
that's fair.
everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they
Get
want in
what
life.
they want.
But the key to that is that if you help enough other people. So if you haven't got what you want in life, you just haven't helped enough other people. There's no metric there that Zig Ziglar put on that. It's like if you have a big dream, then you can't go volunteer one day at the school and think your big dream's going to come to you. You can't give one referral. If you have a big dream, then you need to help other people get their big dream.
I love that. That is powerful. I'm putting that up there. If you haven't gotten what you want in life, you haven't given enough to others to help them.
You can make a book out of this. We transcribe
You
it. There'll be a
could.
book there. Yeah.
Ha,
There you go.
well, you can take that and do that, Frank, because
Well,
this
you can
is
have a
really
compilation of all your guests. You have
your
Suzanne and
interview.
Sajad.
Yes, you know what? I have been thinking about that. I have been thinking about that. Where will this go in the future? Because I know that not everybody wants to watch videos. Some people
Right.
like to read, some people like to listen. And really my hope with this again is that everybody watching will realize not the bold badass business owners on the show or the people who come on like Frank, but they're also you who are watching, because you would not be here trying to improve who you are, investing in yourself, investing time, investing energy, unless you were already a business badass. So tell us, Frank, what do you have to give everybody? What's their gift? What did they get?
Well, I do. I want to invite. I want to invite people to the networking hub, and you can find the dates and time at networking-hub.com. It's you will meet a lot of great people. Um, it, you'll just meet a lot of you'll meet some great people. It'll be worth your 60 minutes of time. There is no cost. I don't want to say it's free because it takes your time. There is no cost. There is no upsell. There is no ongoing commitment. Just come and meet some people. I've had people who've shown up once and it's really helped them. I have people who are there all the time. So that's my
And
gift.
that's the second Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., correct?
Yeah,
Eastern.
7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Yep.
Oh, whoops, oopsie,
Yep.
oopsie. 7 p.m. Eastern, right? And you said you opened the doors up at 6:30 so people can chat, right?
Yep. Yep. They,
Doors open, doors to the Zoom
yeah.
open at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay, great. And of course, you all, everyone who's watching, I'd love to offer you the complimentary ebook that I've got up on my website on how to overcome overwhelm in 7 easy steps. So you also have that as your gift for coming today. And it's available at Spirited, SPIRITED dash solutions, SOLUTIONS.com. And make sure you put the dash so you don't get a boring computer company. That's all I have to say. Frank, I just want to thank you again for sharing your wisdom and your website. Let's put your website up there too. I know I just put networking-hub.com, but what's your other website as well?
Well, my personal website is frankagin.com, and from there you can get to you can get to You can get to my podcast. You can see my books. You can get to my business, Am Spirit Business Connections, some of my charitable efforts. That's kind of a one-stop shopping for all things that I'm
It's the
involved with.
Amazon of Agin.
Yeah, something like that.
So by the
Yeah.
way, I'm seeing you with a creative marketing campaign of putting Velcro inside the things that you're sending out
Okay. There you
and
go.
using this title, the human Velcro expert. I think there's really something to this. I
Okay.
do. And you could have a lot of fun with that, I think. And people would never forget it. They'd be like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Velcro guy, the Velcro guy. You could become the Velcro guy, Frank. Well, listen,
Yeah.
everybody, thank you for tuning in. Again, I want to ask you to share this, to like it, to comment. Don't just sit back. Badass business owners engage. And share this with other people who are thinking about a business or who are already in business. Because, again, our goal is that they know they're badasses. You know you're badasses, and we become a badassery community get together. Anyway, Frank, thanks again. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Friday when we have another fantastic guest. Bye. Thanks again, Frank.
Thanks. Bye-bye.